Dear Google, my students didn't understand my instructions the first time. I know, who knew? Please show me a model video on how to fix this.
What's 4 takeaway 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Takeaway. What's 6 takeaway 1? 1. No. You take away 1 out of 6. How much does it equal? What's 10 minus 1? I don't know.
Pull up a chair, pull up a chair. Here comes another chair chat. We're gonna talk tech. We're gonna talk tech. Tech, 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 tech.
As a teacher, we spend a lot of time trying to figure out what's happening inside a student's head, trying to figure out what they understand, what they're thinking, what their next steps need to be, all those sorts of things. But what we don't often appreciate is they're trying to do the same thing with us. They really use a lot of both the nonverbal cues we use and how we set things up and the routines we create to help them understand and comprehend what's supposed to go on. It's a whole other layer to teaching we don't often think about. During these digital times, it's been a little bit harder for some students to pick up on those cues because the whole thing has changed for some people. So we're going to check in with Monica. She's the instructional program leader that works with the ESL teachers, and holy cow, did they ever have a lot of suggestions we can leverage on how to think about what we're presenting, and also some tools.
In the physical classroom, we use many nonverbal cues that we likely don't even realize. We point, we gesture, we pick up objects, we use our face and our bodies to convey emotion and meaning. All of these things help students to understand what we are trying to communicate. But in a Google Meet, we might just be seen as a talking head. So, what are some things that can help students in the virtual class environment if they're acquiring English as an additional language? If you are explaining a concept, consider adding visuals as well. Look at this drama example. Clearly, there are visuals to sort of set the tone, but consider the language outside of the actual activity. What else could you add to help? Back in time might not be a term that's familiar to a lot of students. Something small like this can help a lot. Some things we can do to help students that are acquiring English. How can we make the content more accessible in the virtual environment? We need to think about multiple entry points. Think of it as pairing strategies. If you're explaining directions verbally, add realia. For instance, open a Jamboard and then add a sticky. If you're chatting about a new understanding, add gestures. We want to save water to conserve energy. You can turn off the taps when you brush your teeth. When you're planning to help English language learners, there are a few understandings that are helpful. For instance, the difference between conversational language and academic language. As you can see, conversational language has familiar content. Students describe their lived experiences, their face-to-face conversations. It's familiar vocabulary. In the classroom, this might look like a student really taking part with interest and vigor in one of your morning circle discussions or in a debrief after a break time. The same student, though, when faced with academic demands and looking at the language in an academic content area, might have a really different quiet response during a lesson. Another thing to think about is that each learning opportunity for students acquiring English has two goals. It has a curriculum goal, and it has a language acquisition goal. For example, during a math talk, a student might be asked to explore addition. They need to find the sum, or do they need to find just sum? Another example can be in science. You could be talking about how leaves are broken down into small pieces by worms and fungi, but this is the passive voice. It might be easier for students to hear worms and fungi break down leaves into small pieces. Another thing we can do to clarify instructions is to add an embedded video of us explaining the content or the task.
When you enter into Screencastify's extension, you can see 3 options across the tab: Browser tab, Desktop, and also Webcam. If you want to do an embedded webcam to have your image, you're going to want to make sure that you're using one of the first 2. And then right below that, you're going to want to make sure that you have the toggle switch for webcam enabled toggled on. I'm going to demonstrate some of the features of Screencastify's embedded webcam using this fraction riddle. At first blush, some people might think this is a great opportunity for someone who struggles with reading, because really, there aren't a lot of words. But those words contain some of that academic language that Monica was talking about. So I'm going to use this webcam to help explain those, and I'm going to combine it with one of the features in the annotation tools, or the draw tools, as Screencastify calls them. So from my annotation toolbar, I'm going to select the pointer, and I'm going to pick the far left-hand option, which is the square. What that does is it provides me with a focus mouse, and it helps me to draw the student's attention to what I need them to look at. So I'm going to read the instructions. Each row and column adds to one whole. And now I'm going to use this focus mouse to help explain some of that vocabulary. So each row going across, or each column up and down, needs to add to one whole. For more information, please visit Supporting English Language Learners on MyHDSB, or follow them on Twitter